Earlier today, news has come that over 20 Indian soldiers, and maybe some PLA soldiers also, have lost their life at Galwan Valley. Many now fear an escalation between the India-China standoff. To discuss the ramifications of this, I have with me Dr. Moeed Pirzada, prominent TV anchor and political commentator. We thank you so much for joining me today.
Najma, thanks for letting me the opportunity to explain this very interesting situation.
With what happened, if you can briefly just tell us what happened and what does this mean?
What we understand here in Islamabad is this, that in the night between 15th and 16th of June, Indians moved a battalion strength, at least a battalion strength headed by a lieutenant colonel, and they were trying to improve their negotiation position by taking some of the areas which were considered important on the apparently Chinese control side of the line of actual control. And the reason for this is understandable. And as a result of this, a physical brawl broke out. Indians were not expecting the Chinese to be fully prepared for it, while both sides haven't really used the weapons. But there has been a battle with the sticks and with scuffles, and in which now we understand that 20 Indian soldiers have died. Some Chinese have also died. But more serious from the Indian point of view is this, that several Indian soldiers and perhaps an officer is now also in the Indian custody. So instead of improving the Indian situation—
Chinese custody, sorry, you meant Chinese custody.
In the Chinese custody. So instead of actually improving the ground situation or the situation on the ground for negotiation table, the Indians have further lost their situation. It's very humiliating for New Delhi at the moment.
So apparently the Chinese side claims that the Indians came over to the territory that they claim is theirs. Is that true? What are you hearing?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we have our own sources in Islamabad to understand this is precisely what happened and why Chinese are actually telling the truth. You can never trust any side in a conflict situation like this. You have to go by partisan statements. But, if you look at the Chinese official statement that has appeared in the Global Times, and if you look at the Indian situation, you see the Chinese have come up with very clear and very comprehensive statements. They said in the night between 15th and 16th, on the day of the Monday, Indians had twice crossed the area. They were trying to improve the situation for the reason they perhaps feel that in the initial scuffle in the first week of May, they were not better off, and they're trying to improve the situation. And they didn't realize that, we would be strong. They mentioned that twice Indians have tried doing this. And you look at from the Indian side, which is in fact a more open information system and democracy, the situation was very patchy to come in. First, they claimed that we have lost one officer and 2 soldiers, and then they said 17 more have died. One Indian officer was also on record saying that 34 Indian soldiers are missing. Now we don't know whether these 17 that have been claimed dead subsequently or among the 34 that were claimed to be missing in the first place. So it looks like that the Chinese have one single position, while Indian position is continuously changing over the past several hours. So Chinese are probably telling the better part of the story.
So the last couple of weeks, everyone has been talking about the fact that they didn't think this was going to escalate to war. Yet right now, the statements coming out from the Chinese side sound very tense. Their tenor is very brusque. The Global Times has basically warned Indians to not overestimate their military strength and therefore give the population the wrong image. What do you think is going to happen now? I mean, will they go to war?
I think, look, my position remains the same. There's no real existential conflict between India and China. It is this, that India, unfortunately, has a very irresponsible government in the form of Narendra Modi, RSS, and BJP. And they're squandering India's goodwill internationally, and they're also losing India's strategic position. Last year, they very unwisely attacked Pakistan into the mainland territory, which has never happened in the past 70 years without a war, without a provocation. And as a result, India's conventional edge, whatever strategic advantage India had over Pakistan, was lost on 27th February, when India lost its 2 planes, a MiG-21 and Su-30. And its pilot was captured by the Pakistani side. Then, so now, what they have done is, in the latest situation, on 6th of June, when the Indian Lieutenant General Harinder Singh met his, his equivalent on the other side, was a Major General on the Liu Lin, and they decided not to unilaterally change the situation. And the Chinese made a statement, and both sides actually, that it will take several weeks and it will take a while before the situation will be settled. Now, what happened between 15th and 16th was a very unwise move on the part of the Indians, because they tried to improve the situation. And Chinese is still being very kind to the Indian side, because if you look at if you read in between the Global Times, which is the official mouthpiece of the Communist Party and linked with Daily Times, you see that they're saying that this move, the unwise move, would have been sparked by the Lobo formations and the army command, and would certainly not have the blessing of the senior Indian leadership. So they're still giving in India an opportunity, and the position and the Chinese statements in the Global Times also make you believe the Chinese were a bit surprised. They didn't expect Indians to actually do this when both sides had actually engaged each other in a very senior lieutenant general side. So now Indians have lost face. And I'm sure that, this kind of bravado, which they have done in reality, would have the sanction of Narendra Modi government and his people in Delhi, because they are politically facing the flak. I mean, don't forget that in the last 48 hours, Rahul Gandhi and Congress have literally fried Narendra Modi government. So they're under pressure. They're trying to improve the situation. But now the situation is more bad than what it was 48 hours earlier.
We also know that the top military leadership in Pakistan also met at the ISI headquarters today. What do you think that meeting, what was discussed during that meeting?
One can understand, what my understanding is this. First of all, it was an unprecedented meeting on the Pakistani side in the midday today, on Tuesday, in which 3 Pakistani service chiefs, like the Air Force, the Navy, and the military, along with the Chairman Joint Chief of Staff, were actually briefed by the Inter-Services Intelligence Director General, General Faiz Hamid, in Apara, in the main headquarters. And the reason was actually because this Indian-Chinese scuffle had taken place overnight. So the Pakistani intelligence, of course, had the exact understanding of what happened, and they realized that a very difficult situation is arising for India. And so the Pakistani intelligence has briefed the military, the Air Force, and the Navy that we have to be prepared for the situation. This was also necessitated because in the past several days, in the past 4 weeks or so, while the Indian political side is being embarrassed and humiliated by the Chinese side, they're continuously ratcheting up and increasing their rhetoric against Pakistan on the line of control in Kashmir. A few days ago, last week on Friday, they basically, the whole Indian media, came up with the false news that, the Karachi was sort of, there was a blackout in Karachi as a result of the fear of the Indian strikes. So it looks like that the Indian intelligence agencies and the Indian government agencies are actually, trying to create a psychological war kind of situation against Pakistan, because they think that Pakistan is an easy prey.
So this is what I was going to say to you. There's obviously now a massive, huge pressure on Modi from the Indian population. So what is his way out?
I think his previous way, I think the Narendra Modi's mind, the way it operates, the muscle man's mind, was working on two separate directions. One was that we can do a clandestine operation while talking peace, and talking negotiation on the face of it. They tried wrenching some territory away from the people, PLA, in order to improve the bargaining position on the negotiation table, as it happens sometime. On the other side, they also think that we can engage Pakistan across the line of control, or maybe somewhere else, and we can do something with Pakistan that can give some sort of pressure cooker steam off from the Indian population. Because, right now, Narendra Modi's government is politically in a very difficult spot.
We thank you so much. I mean, obviously, this is a very fast evolving situation, so we will do other sessions with you on this topic. But thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Najma. Thank you.